Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about my top 3 priorities when it comes to designing a space. If you could only pick 3 things to put your effort, your money, and your focus on, these are the things that I think should be at the top of your list so that you get it right. Okay, before we dive in, I release a video all about design every Thursday, so I would love if you would tap subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time a new video is released. So you're ready to remodel your space, you have this grand vision of what you want the after to look like, and you set your budget and you're ready to dive in and get going. Well, let's make sure that you don't get all the way to the end of the project and realize that some really key things were overlooked or forgotten about. That would be such a drag, such a waste of money, such a waste of time, and you would be super frustrated and kicking yourself for not thinking about these 3 things. So I'm going to share with you what my top 3 priorities would be doing a home renovation, which, by the way, we are currently in the process of. We're vlogging the whole experience of living through a basement renovation, so if you want to check that out, I will link one of those vlog videos in the description box below. So the first priority, the top of the list priority, would be the actual design. And now this is what I mean. What if you are planning a space that you want to renovate? Say it's your main floor and you want to renovate your kitchen and your living room and your entry, and let's pretend that's it. And you want to renovate your main floor. Before you start thinking about the cupboards that you want or the countertops that you want or the tiles, all the pretty things, give some consideration to the overall design. What is it that you want to accomplish when this is all said and done? Do you want there to be open space? Do you want there to be some privacy? Do you want there to be able to be closed doors so that you can have a private area on the main floor? Or do you want everything to be all open and everyone can see everyone at all times? These are the kinds of things that you really need to think through. And I highly recommend, instead of just looking at photos for inspiration, talk to people who have a similar design concept that you are going for. I know many people who love the look of open concept main floors, and then once they get living in them, they can't stand. There's noise all the time. If someone's watching a TV in the other room, it's like you're right there with them when you're in the kitchen, and some of these things can really be annoying for some people. So talk with people who have lived with the kind of concept that you are dreaming of and get some really great feedback, because it might help you modify your design plan before you actually get going in creating this plan that you're working from. In the design phase, one of the things to give some really serious consideration to is like future proofing. Let's just say what you really dream of doing, you aren't able to execute right now. Maybe funds don't allow or the time frame won't work, but you know that in a given period of time, you will work towards the final end result of this grand thing you're dreaming of. Well, keep that in mind as you're starting the initial phase. Even if it's going to be 5 years or 10 years between now and the end result, you would hate to make some decisions for this immediate gratification and loving how it's working for you right now, only to discover when you get to the end that you haven't really worked around the final design, and then you have to go back and undo some of the things you did early on in your project. So think about it. If you want the final kitchen to have a massive island and you want to have, lots of pantry space, keep stuff like that in mind as you're laying out your living room. If they're connected, you don't want to take up too much space for the living room that then when it gets to time to build out your kitchen, you realize we don't have the square footage left. Do you know what I'm saying? Really give some serious consideration to the very, very, very end before you start working on the very, very, very beginning. The second thing I would put right up there at the top of the priority, once you've nailed down your design and you're confident that you're heading in the right direction, that you're gonna end up with a final product that you really love, is to then think about all of the finishes. When I say finishes, I mean all of the hard installed things that once they're there, they're a real pain to move. Flooring, tiles, countertops, some of these bigger, they're also often some of the most expensive when it comes to your interior. Think about those. Where are you gonna want that wall to go? If you're gonna be putting a fireplace in, make sure you think about the exact location that you're gonna want that fireplace long term. These are the types of things that if we don't think it through well at the beginning, it is really, really painful to have to redo. It's lots of extra cost, it's lots of extra labor, and oftentimes it takes a lot of extra time. If you don't choose the right flooring and then you just say, I can't live with this, Imagine having to then go through the entire process again of ripping up flooring and putting down flooring because you didn't choose well the first time. Really pay attention to the finishes that others are going to be installing because those are truly a huge headache to change. Also, when you're thinking about these finishes, think about your design as a whole. Instead of going around and looking at it room by room by room, think about it as a whole. What does the vibe or the whole mood of this main floor renovation, what's it going to be when it's done? And am I executing that vision of that feeling and that mood in every room? Or have I really only captured it in the living room, but the bathroom feels like it's its own thing and the kitchen definitely feels like it's its own thing? Really land on these final results that you're aiming for with the design, like we talked about first, as you're selecting these finishes, so that as it all comes together, that end picture that you saw at the very beginning of what you want it to look like, it begins to take shape in real life because the finishes that you've selected actually work super, super well with the design that you envision. The final priority, if I could only pick 3, would be the fixtures. That would be things that other experts are going to come in and install. So your faucets, your sinks, if you're having a tub, the tub filler or the shower stack. It could also be all of your lighting options, ceiling fixtures, wall sconces, pendants, pot lights. Think about it like those things that experts need to come in and install for you. So this isn't, you're now going to hang curtains. This is like the window needs to go in there or the sink has to get installed into the countertop. Do you know what I'm saying? Like things that experts are going to come in and they are going to help finish off this space. These are things that if we get wrong and we don't really think it through thoroughly, then we have to spend more money bringing an expert back to do a little fix here or a change here because we really didn't think it through in the first place. So really consider your lighting plan, for example. Where are you gonna want light switches? Where are you gonna want outlets? Where are you gonna wanna have wall sconces versus pot lights versus overhead lights or task lighting? Like really think through the final space that you wanna have. Those decisions actually need to be made right at the very beginning of the process so that you're able to tell every subcontractor, every trade that comes in exactly what you want to have done because you know what the end result is. And they're there to help you execute your perfect plan. Now, let me just throw this in, of course, when I say that, because we're referring to all of these experts, it also means the trades that happen behind the walls that you don't see, the plumbing that you don't see, the electrical that you don't see, the HVAC system that you don't see. All of these things are super essential, very important for the final design to all come together. I highly recommend prioritizing all of the trades that are involved with your fixtures getting installed and the whole process taking place. Really prioritize them. Let me give you an example. So say you don't prioritize some of the unseen things that experts need to come in and install, like your HVAC system. You are going to feel that every day when you are not comfortable in your house, when it's too hot in the summer or if it's too cold in the winter. You're going to feel that unseen issue repeatedly. So spending the time and prioritizing getting the tradesperson in to work on your HVAC system and do the job well, even though you won't see it in the end result, you will definitely notice it and it will be well worth the investment. So like I said, we're currently doing our own home renovation right now, and our HVAC guy had such a great idea. We have a smaller home, it's a back split, and underneath the entire front of the home is a small crawl space. And so we scaled down our hot water tank to a tankless hot water tank, and we got a new furnace installed. And he took a look at our crawl space and was like, guys, to save the most space, let's install both of them in the crawl space, out of the way. The only person that's ever really going to bother is when it needs to be serviced or repaired, or when my husband has to change the filter. Not a huge inconvenience for all of the square footage that space is going to save us in our basement. So I kind of lumped those in with the fixtures, even though I know there's technically not always a fixture involved with some of the unseen things. But really prioritizing those things all together is going to set you up to really get the design that you have dreamt of. So why did I pick these 3 things? Well, first of all, the design, you need to be considering that from the very beginning because that's what's going to guide all of the rest of the decisions. Second of all, the finishes are really important because those get installed once all of like the the gut work is done and then the rebuilding is done, the next thing is the finishes. And that helps to really set the tone for the overall feeling and the design that you're creating to come to life. So really being intentional to select those, I would much rather prioritize that and my fixtures and my finishes. I would much rather have an empty house with no decor, knowing that all of the hard things that other people have had to be involved in executing, that it's been done well, it's been done right. I can always add to it over time with the right furnishings, with the right accessories, with the right art and decor. But I will have a really hard time going back in 2 years saying, you know what, I really want to move my fireplace. So prioritizing the things that are more long-term commitments and that other people have to be hired and brought in to install for you. In my opinion, those are the 3 greatest things. Now, if you are curious about decor, coming up in a couple of weeks, I'm going to share my top 3 priorities for when you're decorating your finished space. Because again, if I only had to pick 3, there are 3 definite things that would stand out above all of the rest. And one of them might surprise you. I hope this video has been helpful for you. I would love to hear any comments that you have in the comments below. Do you have any thoughts, considerations, other suggestions? What would your top priorities be? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching today's video. You guys, will see you right back here next week, and I am loved.